Hello and welcome to my garden in mid-November. We've had about 4 months of largely wet and windy weather, and I think on the whole it's looking pretty good. It doesn't bear too close a scrutiny, but from a distance, not looking bad. This is Miscanthus September rot. 6 foot tall, fairly robust upright plant, just catching the sunlight as it comes around the side of the house. Gets about 10 minutes of this every day if the sun is shining, rather duller if it isn't, but a fine plant. Camellia transparent, for all its lovely autumn colour, is beginning to jar a bit because of its floppiness, right across the path all the time. Aconocloa macro is probably my favourite grass, and elbow striata is probably my favourite Aconocloa. Not for what it's looking like now, it's beginning to colour up a little bit, or indeed for what it's been looking like all the summer. But over the next month or so it will go a sort of strawy colour, and it will keep that colour and keep standing right through to the end of February. It'll be the brightest thing in the garden in January and February, and at that point it can then be cut down completely cleanly to the ground, and within a month or so it's coming back up again. I love it. When I bought my plant of Miscanthus Morning Light, I was under the impression that it would grow about 3 feet high. It's twice that, but a lovely thing. The group of Sasanqua camellias that I've got out the front of the house are still flowering pretty well. I think you need a cold spell followed by the weather warming up to get a sort of big flush of flower all in one go. These are just ticking over steadily. Loads of buds to come. They've budded up very well. They are in full sun, facing south with a white wall behind them. And I think they get enough moisture from watering of pots around them, and they've perhaps got their roots going under the concrete apron to the house as well. If they got dried out in the growing season, I don't think they'd set buds quite so well. This is Navajo, beautiful Nuccio variety. And this one is Paradise Belinda, which is, according to some, the best of the Paradise series. It's only a very large 3-inch diameter, vivid pink flower. This one is Paradise Little Leanne, which does very well here. I know of a couple of other plants of it that don't flower at all, growing in shade. This one seems to need to be in sun to do well. Small flowers, but pleasantly scented, a bit different from the normal Sasanqua scent. And finally in the camellias, Fairy Blush, which was a Lechuensis seedling that Mark Jury raised, registered in 1994. I've still got it growing in a pot. I bought this plant as Impatiens balanzae, but Nick Macer is saying it doesn't match the description in the Flora of China, and he's saying it's half Apollophila, only just beginning to flower late in the year, but it came through last winter no problem in the ground. Beautiful underside to the leaf. Remains to be seen whether the flowers will open properly. Begonia torsa I'm getting rather a lot of because it produces bulbils very freely and I don't have the heart to throw them away. And it's also colouring up quite brightly, which combined with the size of the leaves makes a bit of an impression. You can see the little bulbils in the leaf axils here. Lovely leaf veins against the sun. And then another thing that I'm very fond of for the foliage, and I'm planting more and more of, I'm trying to spread Cyclamen hedropholium as widely as I can around the garden, so that it gives me leaf interest right through the winter. So I collect the seed and sow them and then grow them on for a year or two and plant them out. This group of seedlings here were from seed that was sent to me by one of my blogging friends. I don't remember what the mixture was, but they're a very fine form, and they seem to be just as robust in the garden as the ordinary ones. Beautiful arrow-shaped silver leaves. Been out a year or two, just beginning to produce a few flowers now. Berries don't seem to be making a big contribution to the colour in the garden at the moment. This is Berberis thunbergii bagatelle, purple-leaved, low-growing berberis. Tiny little berries, but very bright red. And the other purple-leaved thing behind it is Astelia westland. Out the back, Skimmia, I think this is possibly red ruth, Skimmia japonica form, going rather yellow, and this is the half of the bush that I didn't cut away. The other half I removed earlier in the year, probably honey fungus. Another female one, this is Bowles dwarf female. Doesn't seem to fruit as freely as all that, not as freely as you'd expect given the amount of flower on it. But this is a very low growing small variety. You see masses and masses of small flower heads, typical of the females. That's 3 feet wide, foot high. And then the third one is Rubella, which is a male. This will obviously have no berries, and by all accounts is not a very good pollinator, but the flower spikes on it are much larger, far more flowers, and they're looking good now, and they'll be coming out in the spring, so they're giving you several months of garden interest. A case of a very common plant being a very good garden plant, deserves to be popular. Dicium Assam orange, collected originally by Frank Kingdom Ward in northeast India in 1938, and not tried outdoors until the early 1970s at Wakehurst, where it proved to be completely hardy, as it has with me. Colours up quite a bright yellow in the autumn, and the flower spikes produce these red fruits against orange calyxes. Cases. Just behind it is a Lophomertus Catherine. Purple-leaved evergreens are in fairly short supply, and this is quite an attractive one. Has been damaged in cold winters once or twice. Thought you might want to have a quick look in Sue's greenhouse. Why wouldn't you? There was a time earlier in the year when you could actually walk up through the middle of there. Taxus baccata standicii, the golden Irish yew, or one of the golden forms of Irish yew. Every small garden needs a few big plants. This is 16-17 feet high, wired to keep it from falling apart, keep it narrow. To the right of it is Pittosporum Elizabeth, which was a brand new plant to this country when I bought and planted that one. And that was November. Hopefully I'll see you again in a month's time.